and silence through the night. What a thrill. I'm searching and I'll melt into you. What a fear in my heart, but you're so supreme. I give my on a tree frog. It's ordeal, the trial to survive for the day we see new light. I give my life, not for honor, but for you. In my time,
Now, before this video does start, I do just want to say real quickly that I do now have a Patreon, and if you are looking for another way to support me and with this content I make, I post one analysis video a month at least. Some months it will be 2, some months it might even be 3 if I'm, I don't want to let anything out that's not what I deem as quality, personally. Because anything that I don't deem as quality personally and that I wouldn't watch all the way through is something that no one else would watch all the way through. So why would I make something that I wouldn't watch all the way through if no one else would, right? So there is a Patreon. It'll be linked down below. And I also have a Kick. I'm hoping to stream. I'm planning on making analysis videos for the Metro series. Metro Last Light, Metro 2033, and Metro Exodus. So if you want to see me get the gameplay for those videos, you can go and check out my Kick. I'll be streaming everything there, hopefully, if my internet's nice and stable enough the whole time. And, yeah, this intro's went on for long enough. Metal Gear Solid 3 starts off with one of the best title screens I've ever seen in a video game. And that's not just me being biased, because it is my favorite game, or at least one of my favorite games of all time. Look at the customization you can do on this starting screen. We don't have anything like this in current day video games. Not a single thing like it. Like, the only thing I can think of in recent day that's as, customizable, quote unquote, is like, I can't even think, honestly, of one from a recent year. To be honest with you. This is one of my favorite starting screens of all time in a video game. No bias, of course. No bias. But then after that, you press the pause button or the start button, whatever it is you're pressing. You get into the game, and you go up to that button and you click New Game. And after you do that, you have to pass a little bit of a filter of sorts. It'll ask you if you like MGS 1, if you like MGS 2, If you like MGS3, if you click you like MGS3, you can play the game on European Extreme Mode, which basically means if you get caught or spotted by an enemy, you restart from the last save. And then if you click that you like MGS2, you will be wearing a Raiden mask when you drop in. So, that's a thing. Even though that's weird, and I don't know why they have that, it's nice to see that they put that little wink and nod, to Raiden from MGS2. After selecting what game you like, or I'm new to the franchise, or whatever it says at the top, you'll then be hit with a difficulty meter. And honestly, even though this is one of my favorite games of all time, it has an issue that a lot of games have, where there's a difficulty slider. And, I hate how games have difficulty sliders, I feel like we should just get rid of them. There's no need for them at the moment. It makes me, because I'm the type of person that likes to play through the game the way it was meant to be played through. And I'm not completely sure if easy is the way the game was meant to be played through, normal was, hard was, or hardcore, or whatever it is, and then European Extreme or whatever. I'm not sure, so I just select the normal mode. That just seems like the most, I don't know, safest choice. Game that does difficulty really well is Dark Souls and Bloodborne and Elden Ring, especially Elden Ring, because Elden Ring can either be hard as fuck when you play through it the first time, or it can be easy. I'm talking, you're taking maybe 2 minutes on every boss, and the only boss that will give you some trouble is the end boss. As where with other games that have difficulty sliders, you can play on easy and play through the game very, very easily, or you can pick normal and have a well-rounded experience, in my opinion, or you can play on hard, have a bit of a harder experience, obviously. Going away from this rant I've had about difficulty sliders, we're going to get into the actual game now. The actual game, once you load in it, let me just play the intro for you. This is definitely getting copyright strikes, by the way. Did you see how beautiful that was? It gives me heavy vibes of like a James Bond movie intro. And that song, Snake Eater, is the name of the song. That song. That's one thing I gotta talk about real quick before we get into the game. The soundtrack for this game, I'm pretty sure I've listened to it more than any other game soundtrack. Specifically Snake Eater, as well, as it's just a beautiful song. And I like it, man. I fucking love it. I love that song. If you haven't played the game, or you haven't heard the soundtrack as of recently, I do recommend you go and listen to that. Next thing I have to talk about is another reason why I like Metal Gear Solid 3 so much, is the fact that no matter how much you've played the Metal Gear series, let's say you've never played any of the games, and you're asking me what game you should play first. Even if I'm not biased, objectively, the first one you should play is either MGS3 or MGS5. MGS3 is a prequel, and you don't need any story before it because it's the start of the story. You'll miss a few winks and nods and stuff, like, you'll miss a few, hey, I know that guy moments, stuff like that. But that doesn't really affect your experience unless you've played the other Metal Gear games. So not playing the other Metal Gear games and just going right into MGS3 is probably the best option. Second best option if you don't have a PS3 or an Xbox 360 to play these things on, or a Xbox One or a PS2. The second best way I would probably say is if you have a newer generation console, play Ground Zeroes and the Phantom Pain. Mainly the Phantom Pain. Ground Zeroes is kind of just like it's a little teaser for the Phantom Pain, but most game stores have it bundled with the Phantom Pain because of a bunch of things I'll talk about when we get to that game in this series of videos. Hopping into MGS3's story, you are Naked Snake, or John Doe if you want to go by his actual name. And yes, Naked Snake is Big Boss in the future. I hate to break that to you. He is Big Boss in the future. This man, who we're going to be connecting with throughout this entire game, becomes Big Boss, who we fucking murder. But technically don't murder. If you are thinking about MGS4, we're not going to think about MGS4 at the moment. So we drop in on a secret mission, a virtuous mission, as a matter of fact. And we're commanded by Major Zero. And along with Major Zero, we also have Paramedic. Very good name, Paramedic, very good name. And as well as Paramedic, we also have a weapons specialist who is named Cygnus. I forget his name, and I didn't write it in the script. Thank you, Pass Nolan. And then we also have the boss. Not Big Boss. Not that boss. The boss. The boss, for a little bit of a background story, is the mentor of Naked Snake, of Big Boss. Okay? So, if she's the mentor of him, and you're aware of the other games and what Big Boss or Naked Snake becomes, then you should be looking at her and being like, holy fuck. She must be strong as shit. And she teaches you many different CQC, close quarters combat techniques. I didn't do this in this gameplay or this playthrough because I've played the game many times, but if you play through the game yourself, I would recommend talking to her so you can freshen up a bit. After this, though, when we're on our way down from a Halo jump, we lose our backpack, so we gotta go and get that. After getting the backpack, there's a little tutorial. It tells you everything, how to go through and stuff like that. And that's another thing I need to talk about. The tutorial for this game, I like it, but I also hate it at the same time. And the reason why I like it is because it's very much an experimental tutorial. The whole first area is technically counted as a tutorial. You are experimenting the whole time, just trying to figure out stuff on your own. It doesn't hold your hand. But at the same time, the tutorial for the backpack and the camouflage, I think is around 6 minutes long if you listen to all the codecs. 90% of my footage, as I have recorded all of MGS3 and most of MGS2, my hard drive is full of fucking codec calls. That's fucking ridiculous. The Metal Gear games, that's another thing I need to say. They have a lot of codec calls. MGS3, though, is much more lighter on the mandatory, you need to hear this so you know where you're going if this is your first time playing codec calls. I would recommend you listen to all the codec calls you can the first time you play through this game. And then after that, when you know, skip everything. Because when you come back to this game, you're not coming back to it for the story mainly. Yes, parts of the story are fucking beautiful, but you're mainly coming back to it for the gameplay. And that's the first reason why I think that MGS3 is a perfectly flawed masterpiece. It's perfect, but it's also flawed at the same time. Going back into the story, you now go around and knock out your first few guards with your tranquilizer pistols. That's all you're given. And that's all you will be seeing me using throughout this entire playthrough, as I like to play through the games as non-lethally as possible. Sometimes I might do a lethal playthrough, but usually it's a non-lethal playthrough that I'll do of all the games except for MGS 1, or just MGS and MG and MG Solid Snake, because I find that to be the most challenging and the quote-unquote real way to play the game. Quote-unquote. Play the game however you want. Anyway, you realize something if you're playing this game, after not playing it for a while. The shooting mechanics, pretty fucking bad. When I was playing this, I play claw. Single-handed claw on the Xbox remote, because double-handed claw is weird to me on the Xbox remote. And I was using my middle finger to hold this down. Right? This is how you go into first-person mode. Let me just show you real quick. This is first person mode. This is aiming mode, which I didn't know the first time I played. This is aiming mode. This right here is fucking equip, de-equip weapon. This is shoot. X is shoot. X is shoot. Which is very weird for some, but I've played lots of classic games, so that's normal for me. But I would be holding this down, and I'm sure you'll see it in the footage here. My gun just disappears. I'd be holding this down, go to press this, and gun goes from here to just fucking gone. And it puts me into third person mode. And trying to shoot someone in the head in third person mode is terrible. Don't recommend it. Never do it. Getting away from the combat, though, which is one of the parts that I think is flawed, but also not at the same time. But flawed if you're looking at it from a modern stance, you know? And that's why I'm very happy for the remake coming out. I hope it's just a remaster, actually. I don't really think much of the game needs a remake. Just a remaster. Not a remake, such as Resident Evil 4 that came out in recent time. And I'm not hoping, I know that's going to be one of the things they do. It will probably be more so like Metal Gear Solid 5, which I'm looking very forward to because I love the story and the scenery of MGS 3, but I like the gameplay of MGS 5 better, and Ground Zeroes. Moving along with MGS 3's story, Snake is tasked with going and finding and rescuing Professor Sokolov, who ended up making the first Metal Gear, but not in the way you think. We'll get on to the real person who made the first Metal Gear later on, but he made the first Metal Gear, which is named the Shagohod. Now this thing, look at that thing. Look at it. It's a bit scary. It can also send, as we later find out, a nuclear missile into the States from anywhere in Russia that has a 3-yard runway. What the fuck? But anyway, we're tasked with going and finding this guy and saving him. We get some more combat. I love it. But first, before all of it, we get the best cutscene in the game. Snake's smile is beautiful there. When he sees that beehive and sees he can torment all of the enemy combatants with it, his smile it's fucking beautiful. Besides the wholesome smile Snake gives us, we move on further. We cross the bridge, we go in to the next major area, which is where they're holding Sokolov. We had some more great combat, and then we're right back into a cutscene, which I don't mind, because the game so far has given us a decent 10-15 minutes of good combat, and then we're in a cutscene, progressing the story. We get to Sokolov in his room, and he's throwing all of his papers away, burning them, because he thinks we're one Colonel Volgin, who is the leader of a special GRU force. This man shoots lightning. That's another thing we're going to talk about soon. But in the midst of us trying to get Sokolov out, we end up running across, you might know this guy, Revolver Ocelot. Yeah, a commander of a GRU special forces, the Ocelots. This is one of the best characters in the fucking game. Revolver Ocelot is using a Makarov pistol, fucking flinging bullets like he's in the fucking Wanted film or something. And then, he ejected the first bullet manually, so his gun jams. Snake then beats the fuck out of him, tells him, hey, maybe you should use a revolver. And now we have Revolver Ocelot. There's more to it than that, but I want to let the cutscene do the talking. After that beautiful cutscene between Snake and Ocelot, and also if you're playing lethally, you probably did time paradox and shot Ocelot in the head. That doesn't work out for Kojima's story. We may be the gamers, we may have the controller, but really we're all just pawns in Kojima's game. That was really cringy. I'm never going to do that again. Anyway, you degenerates, we're moving on. We get to the bridge. And here we get introduced to a special guest. the boss, who was supposed to be in a submarine somewhere completely far away from here. And she's here. Snake then learns that she defected to Mother Russia, to the motherland. Come on, dude. You were supposed to be my waifu. You were supposed to be my waifu. I can't believe this. But then we meet the Cobra unit, which consists of the Joy, or the boss, the Sorrow, the Fury, the End, and the Fear. Now, I'm going to tell you about each and every one of these guys. The Fury, he's an ex-astronaut that has a fucking flamethrower. And also, my least favorite boss fight in the entire fucking game. But we'll get to that later when we're talking about the boss fights. Then we have the Fear, who is a guy who can dislocate his joints to be like a spider with a web. But it's just his legs and arms that are very long and disconnect freakishly. Then we have the End. The End has the best boss fight ever. He's an old-ass man who is literally just sleeping forever, basically. Majority of the day, majority of the years, trying to get into a fight with his one last big prey, Naked Snake, Big Boss, us. He also can, just let me make sure I'm reading this right. He photosynthesizes like a plant. The fuck? An old man that photosynthesizes like a plant. If you couldn't tell, these games aren't based in reality. But they're fucking awesome because they aren't. The End is one of the best boss fights ever. And we'll get to that later, like I said. We also have the Sorrow, who can, well, he can talk to the dead and summon the dead ghosts. And he's also Revolver Ocelot's father. Which explains why he's able to have Liquid's arm and Liquid speak through him later on in Metal Gear Solid 2 and every game past that he's in. But then the big boss also introduces us to Colonel Volgin, who can control lightning. I have no idea how to explain his powers. He stuck his dick in a toaster, got electrified, and now he can shoot electricity. That was my very degenerative and mature explanation of Colonel Volgin. He's the least coolest out of all of them, in my opinion. And I almost forgot about the pain, which should tell you how boring he is. He has bees. He controls bees. Whoop-de-fucking-do, man's a beekeeper, who cares? The boss then beats the fuck out of Snake after telling him that she's defected to Mother Russia, his mentor, who he hasn't seen in forever, and cares about very dearly, has defected to Mother Russia. He can't really fight back. Not only because he's so, shocked, also because the boss is fucking badass. People say video games never had no badass females in it that showed barely any of their skin for the majority of the game. As a matter of fact, the only time I think you see her quote-unquote nude is in the final boss fight, and even then it's not really in a seductive way, it's in more so like a teaching way, I guess, because she's showing a scar. But she was. Her and the bitch in red were the first things that ever gave me my sexual awakening as a young degenerate. They are the dearest waifus. At least they were, because the boss just fucking threw us into the river. Broke our arm, several of our ribs, fucked us up in general, mentally, physically, everything all the fucking round, 99 overall type shit, and then threw us into a river. We then are over by a tree when Paramedic gives us a rundown of everything you can do. I lost this footage, by the way, of the little rundown Paramedic gives you. But basically, You'll see it throughout, so I'll just put footage of something else, like the leech area probably. You have to actually heal yourself. It's probably the most annoying healing system, but at the same time, the one that makes the most sense. Because you're out there surviving, it actually makes you think feel like you're surviving, because on the hard difficulties, you won't find bandages and suturing kits and stuff you need to make sure you stop bleeding and everything. So it really makes it feel real almost. It's a beautiful system. After all this, though, we cut to a cutscene of Colonel Volgin firing a missile, a recoilless nuclear head, which also the boss gave to him as a sort of gift for her new hosts in the Soviet Union, and he fires it at Professor Sokolov's old warehouse, factory, whatever you want to call it, lab, blowing it up with a nuclear warhead. America is then blamed for this, specifically Snake's unit, the Fox unit, you might have heard of them. They basically get pinned for this, and America gets pinned for this. So the Fox unit, aka just Naked Snake, Big Boss, is sent in to meet up with two people. Two people that defected. One Eva, and the other one Adam. They're supposed to meet up at the same place Sokolov was held up at before, as the radiation is still fucked up and really bad, so no one else should be there except for them. However, things don't go to plan, as soon as we land in our fucking epic-ass spaceship, by the way, the entrance, the first time and the second time, are both fucking insane. They both fucking rock. What's a more modern, better word I could use? They're both Kid, I'm here. Okay, so basically, set in the year 1964, 31 years before the events of the original Metal Gear, the story centers on the Fox operative, codenamed Naked Snake, as I mentioned before, and he attempts to go and rescue the Russian rocket scientist Nikolai Stepanovich, however the fuck you say that Russian name. Very sorry for Russian, I've absolutely butchered that. And basically, he goes to help this Sokolov guy, and they're going to sabotage a super weapon. You have a bunch of shit. There's a guy named fucking Volgin as well. A whole bunch of shit, okay? You're going there also, and your other main mission is to go and kill your former mentor / mommy, basically, waifu of the year, or former waifu of the year until Eva surpassed her, the boss, who is basically the mentor of Naked Snake, or the Big Boss, and Colonel Volgin himself. You fight Ocelot as well, and then Ocelot becomes Revolver Ocelot because of a bunch of things that Snake said, and that's a whole thing. And then you go through, and the final fucking cutscene is absolutely fucking beautiful. Same thing with the fucking final boss fight when you're fighting against the boss, and it's absolutely beautiful, and the whole game's fucking beautiful, and there's nothing more beautiful than this game. The soundtrack's beautiful, and I really strongly urge you to fucking go listen to the soundtrack right after this video, or listen to it while the fucking video's playing, even though I'll probably have the soundtrack somewhere in here. I don't fucking know. But it's beautiful, and then at the end, Eva basically fucks off and leaves a videotape and says, hey, I was gonna kill you, but I didn't kill you because the boss, she told me that she actually wasn't there because she wanted to defect. She had a defect to cover up a story, and the whole thing is actually just a CIA plot to cover up their own fucking footsteps, and you're sent there to kill her so that way they have a credible story, and that way Russia doesn't send a nuke at them during the Cold War, and that way America doesn't have to send a nuke in retaliation in the Cold War. And then, yeah. The final cutscene's beautiful, and it's going to play at the end of the video, so I don't need to even describe it, but it's fucking beautiful. Also, Eva's a Chinese spy, and Revolver Ocelot's actually Adam, who you were supposed to meet up with, but he's fucking weird. Yeah. He's cool, though. He's cool, though, at the same time. That was the quickest I could summary. That was a nice 3 minutes and 28 seconds, okay? Hopefully you enjoyed that. Trust me, I know this might have been a little bit convoluted, but this is by no means a story video. If you want to find a video about the story of MGS3, or you want a quick recap, if you want a full recap, you can go to the TV Tropes. They have a recap of it there in text space, or the story of Snake Eater by It's Amanda Lemon is a video that came out in 2020, and it's 21 minutes long. There's better videos that go into the lore and everything, but this video is just about how much I love MGS3, and it's mainly about the core mechanics, the way the game plays, stuff like that. And yeah, maybe I'll do a video about the story in the future. I don't know. Anyway, it's been long enough. Go to my Patreon if you don't mind. You would have saw this video a week early. Shameless plug. Back to past Nolan. Editor Nolan's gone now. But then after patching both of us up, we now go through a pretty annoying stealth section with quotation marks. You can't really stealth this section. She gets spotted all the fucking time. It's really an annoying section where you have to fucking guide Eva through the fucking woods and the jungle. But then after that, we make it to our plane. Our plane that Eva knows how to fly. A warthog. Perfect. But we have one last thing to do for our mission. We've eliminated Colonel Volgan. We've secured Sokolov's research data. Destroyed the Shagohod. But we still have to take out the boss. Our mentor, and probably Snake's only parent figure. Mother figure, for sure. And this is probably one of the best boss fights ever. I'm going to let it play for you, basically in its entirety, the whole ending of the game now. And I hope you enjoy it as much as I do. After everything we've done, we escape with Eva. Have a night with her. And she leaves. She leaves and reveals that she was actually working for the Chinese government. She was a Chinese spy pretending to be an American spy, pretending to be a Russian soldier. And the only reason why she didn't kill us was because she held a promise to the boss. Not because of the love she shared for Snake, but because of the boss. We also find out that the boss isn't the bad guy in all of this. We were sent there to kill her as a cover-up for the CIA's mistake. They sent her in first to go and try and get the founders, to go and try and get the legacy from the Russians. And after the warhead that was fired at the factory, we ended up having to go and kill her to make America look like it was great. And finally, Snake goes up and gets the title of Big Boss. And then he goes and sees the boss's grave. Imagery that will then be put again in Metal Gear Solid 4. And man, when I tell you that this is one of the best scenes I've ever seen in a video game, Snake shed a tear that day, and I fucking shed one with him. Now, very different, steering away from the story that I've just explained, very roughly, mind you. There's lots of story retrospectives. This is not that. Now I'm going to be going through and ranking the bosses. Not in a tier list, just going to be ranking them through my words. Giving them a 0 to 10, a 1 to 10, whatever. We're going to start with the first boss, the first fight against Ocelot. I'm going to give this about 6. Has a few quirks to it. If you put away your weapon, he'll put away his weapon thinking you want to duel. So every time you go to reload faster, you get a free shot on him because he thinks you want to duel. There's the beehives you can use, or if you want to fight him like a true man, you don't use those. And it's all around a pretty good fight, and that's interrupted by the bee scene, which, like I said, fucking cool. He's a Sigma Chad. Yeah, 6. I'm going to give it a 6. 6 out of 10. After that, we have the boss fight with the pain. 2. 2 out of 10. Because the boss fight with the pain is fucking boring. Throw a grenade, shoot him. It's even easier if you're doing it lethally. Non-lethally, throw a grenade, shoot him with the trank gun. Throw a grenade, shoot him with the trank gun. Throw a grenade, shoot him with the trank gun. Throw a grenade, shoot him with the... Have I said enough? Throw a grenade, shoot him with the trank gun. 2 out of 10. Worst boss fight in the game, easily. Then after this, we have the Fear. And the Fear, I gotta tell you, man. The Fear's a solid 3. He's not really cool or that interesting. You just put on the thermal goggles and shoot him even without the thermal goggles. It's basically just annoying because he's invisible. But with the thermal goggles, it's a trivial fight at best. And at worst, it's boring. Which is what it is. It's boring. 3 out of 10. Fight me. I know you won't. That's not a very woke opinion, as some may say. Then after this, we have The End, which is the best boss fight in the entire game. The End is a fucking beautiful boss fight, okay? There's multiple ways to take him out. Lethally, non-lethally. In order to get his moss camo, which is the only camo that can get up to 100, you have to hold him up 3 times. Not very hard once you get a hang of it. You're basically having a sniper battle with him, except for if you're doing it non-lethally, not using a sniper, you're using a fucking trank gun. You can use the thermal goggles to see his footprints, and also, the best thing about this is a little bit of a failsafe, I guess. If you couldn't beat him within, say, 7 days, a week, and you had a save file you hadn't played for a week, 7 days, The End dies of old age. The End dies... What you're seeing right now is the scene that happens when he dies of old age. Snake feels disappointed in himself. Because he didn't fight like The End had waited and slumbered for many years to do. And honestly, I've only done this like twice. Once the first time I heard about it. Second time was for this video to get footage of it. And I prefer the fight. The fight is a 9 to 10 out of 10. For this game, it's a 10 out of 10, I'd say. Or a 9.5 out of 10. It's a beautiful boss fight, fun boss fight, great boss fight. And I'm sure in the remake it'll be even better because there'll be less loading zones. Even with the loading zones, I can excuse that. It's a beautiful fucking fight, beautiful game, beautiful ending to the fight, and everything. Then after this, we have the Fury. I fucking hate this piece of shit. But at the same time, in retrospective to the other fights in this game, it's at least a 5 or a 6. He has a bunch of fire attacks. He's an astronaut. He has a jetpack. The ending scene's pretty cool. He turns into a fucking flaming skull, basically. And then afterwards, you have the ladder crawl, which I like. And, yeah, I'd just say it's a mid-range boss fight. Probably a 4 to 6. 4 being the lowest, I'd give it. 6 being the highest. So we'll go with 5.2. 5.2. Then after that, we have the fight against the Shagohod and Colonel Volgin. And Colonel Volgin fight, pretty easy. He has a few attacks that might be annoying the first time you do a boss fight against him. Other than that, though, pretty easy. Put your gun away whenever you're fighting him, because if he electrifies you, the bullets go off. And that's not cool. Causes the gun to like blow up in a sense. Not very cool. Shagohod fight, pretty trivial until you're actually on the ground. Then it's probably a bit funner. So I'm going to combine these two together. And they're going to have a combined score of 6. Now we're moving on to the boss. 10 out of 10, without a doubt. Snake Eater song plays, one of my favorite songs from the soundtrack. The fight is beautiful. The arena you fight them in is fucking beautiful. Not dull like the Furies. Not dark like the Pains. Not fucking just a jungle like the Fears. It's these beautiful white flowers. And after you eventually have to kill her, the flowers all turn red. And it is a beautiful scene. Beautiful fight, beautiful spectacle, beautiful arena, beautiful music, beautiful everything. This is From Software levels of boss fights here. With the way it's come together. Beautiful. Then after this, we have one I didn't cover when I was talking about the story. One last boss fight, quote unquote, against Ocelot. I'm going to give this a 0 for gameplay. Because all you do is you look, you press RB and you look to see what he's doing. He's flipping the guns around. One of them has a bullet. You grab the one on the left. It's always the one on the left. It's never not been the one on the left, I don't think. It's always the one. It's always the one on the left. You grab the one on the left, you shoot it, and that's right. It's a dud. He then takes his pistol back. You both look at each other like, hey. And then he fucks off until Metal Gear Solid... Well, until Metal Gear Solid 5, or no, 4 if you're looking at it this way, but the actual just Ocelot, not till 5, but Liquid Ocelot 4, whatever the fuck. And it's pretty good. 0 for fucking gameplay, but for comedic and, story and everything, I'm going to give it at least a 4 to a 5. We're going to give it a 4.5. Okay? Now that's been all of the boss fights. I've went over lots of the mechanics. I've went over the story. And now we're at the conclusion, folks. At its core, Metal Gear Solid 3 has great gameplay. Except for the combat gameplay. Meaning the gameplay is perfect, essentially. But the combat is a bit of a flaw by modern standards, as it is tank controls. If you can get past that, though, the combat, I would say, is probably one of the best, or not the combat, but the gameplay is one of the best you will get out of the Metal Gear Solid universe and franchise, other than 5. For story, probably the best one you're going to get in the entire franchise. And last, for soundtrack, man, for soundtrack, then visuals, even though I was playing the HD remaster, even looking at PS2 footage, it's beautiful, man. And the visuals and the spectacles and the fucking soundtrack all go together so well. This is a 10 all across the boards. Maybe a 9 when you go into the gameplay section, because there is some tedious stuff. But if you get past the tediousness, which I'm sure you will if you play this game, it is absolutely spectacular. Absolutely spectacular. And that is why, ladies and gentlemen, Metal Gear Solid 3 is a perfectly flawed masterpiece. And until next time, I'll see you guys around. Thanks for watching. Subscribe, drop a like, leave a comment, tell me what game you guys would like to see next. Check out the Patreon if you have the money to spare, or even just looking at it and not spending any money will also be great. I look forward to seeing you guys in the next video, which is going to be Metal Gear Solid 2, I'm pretty sure, or Resident Evil 4 remake video. And yeah, see you guys in the next one. Peace.
Son, you've got a way to fall. They'll tell you where to go, but they won't know. Son, you'd better take it all. They'll tell you what they know, but they won't show. Oh, I've got something in my throat.
I can't believe this.
I need to be
Never thought I'd see you act this weak.
What
do you mean?
Listen, Eva, we're doing this together.
No, you...
Eva,
got a way to
Say that one more time.
I need
They're
you.
picking on you still,
I can't fly the wig by myself.
but they don't know. Son, you'd better wait to shine. They'll tell you what is yours, but they take mine. Oh, I've got something in my throat. I need to be alone while I suffer. Oh, there's a hole inside my bones. I need to stay afloat for the summer, Lord. I've got something in my throat. I need to be alone while I suffer. There's a hole inside my bones. I need to stay afloat for the summer. You better
Snake.
wait to fall.
History will never know what she did. No one will ever learn the truth. Her story, her debriefing, will endure only in your heart. Everything she did for her country. She sacrificed her life and her honor for her native land.